Good deal.
Right now at 5, emergency crews respond to a rollover crash near Joplin's Regional Airport.
And it's been relatively windy, not necessarily this windy by any means, but we'll have a look at that forecast, talk about tomorrow's storm chances coming up.
Plus, what a ballot mistake means for some early voters in southeast Kansas.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now. The 4 states' most watched news.
And welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5 a.m. I'm Dorothy this morning for you, and
There you go. I'm a tornado. This is what you. So here's the thing. You gotta understand what we've got here. You folks at home voted on this, okay? We had a poll out, and you voted that she should be Dorothy, I should be a tornado.
Yes.
Now, Elise here and our digital producer Peyton put together my tornado.
Yes, we put together this tornado for Chris. So
I mean, I don't know. It might possibly be a garbage bag. Blowing in the wind.
But this is what you wanted.
You guys voted for it, so this is what we've got. But
so we did it today because Chris isn't going to be with us for the rest of the week. But it is Halloween.
Yeah, it is Halloween. That's good enough. But yeah, as Lisa mentioned, I want to make sure the kids have a good Halloween and doing the morning shift. It's not fair to them to rush them back by 5 o'clock and go home. So I've taken some time off. So that's why we're doing Halloween early.
Yeah.
Now the good news is it has been very windy, but we're not dealing with any of this stuff yet. Unfortunately, here's the thing though. Our station here, we are in Kansas. Now if we were to just go to our Joplin office, we could say we're not in Kansas anymore.
But we are. We still
We
are.
are in
Or
Kansas.
are we?
Yeah, so
I don't know.
I don't know anymore. Let's take a look outside, and we'll take a look at our camera downtown Pittsburgh. And you can see things are looking pretty good. We're actually mostly clear this morning, just a handful of clouds. Yeah, this looks so... This is so bad. 7th and Range Line, our camera there, it's looking good. Same road, the MoDOT camera, 20th and Range Line, and the KDOT camera at 69 East 520th Avenue. And the handy thing is I can just remove this. Elise has to be Dorothy through the whole show, okay? She's got to contend with this choice the whole show. I can take this off and kind of sit comfortably. Okay, so here's where the 5 different weather service offices come into play. We have got wind advisories. Bourbon, Crawford, Cherokee, Southwest Missouri until 8, also in Northeast Oklahoma through 8. However, Wichita has decided the rest of Southeast Kansas will run until 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, and with good reason. In all honesty, our wind gusts today are going to be in that 30 to 40 mile an hour range once again. Future track is picking up on maybe a stray sprinkle or two, but again, rain chances today are less than 10%. We're also going to be a couple degrees cooler than yesterday. 73 in Joplin, 71 in Pittsburgh. We actually broke record highs across most of the area yesterday, and we're set to at least be warm, but maybe not record warm today. But look at this. It is in the 70s. This really is March or April kind of weather out there. Kids getting on the bus this morning. We're looking at clear skies, maybe a cloud here or there, those winds gusting 30 to 40, temperatures upper 60s for most of us, then partly to mostly cloudy skies, gusts to 40, maybe even in some cases today 45 or 50, be about 80 when those kids come home. And so that's the thing, is it will be that much cooler than yesterday. We're looking at low 80s today, maybe some mid 80s out there, and like yesterday too, that mix of partly to mostly cloudy skies. And then we've got our thunderstorm chances tomorrow, and of course that's something we're going to discuss more seriously and more in detail with you here in just a few more minutes. Elise?
All right, thanks, Chris. Well, Joplin authorities had to use the jaws of life to rescue a 19-year-old driver following a rollover crash late Sunday night. Now, the crash happened just after 11 near the General Aviation Terminal entrance of the Joplin Regional Airport. Now, JPD says a pickup crossed all lanes of traffic before striking a stone fence and tree before coming to a rest on its side. Now, the driver was trapped inside the cab of the crashed pickup, and the driver was rushed to an area hospital. Now, those high winds helped fuel a fast-moving grass fire yesterday evening. The fire spread south of Ivy Road and Country Road 197 outside Carthage. 20 to 30 mile per hour winds pushed the fire quickly with gusts up to 45 miles per hour. The National Weather Service had issued a wind advisory earlier for Barton, Jasper, McDonald, Newton, and Vernon counties in southwest Missouri. Just after 7, the fire was declared contained as it had burned to the Ruby Jack Trail and simply ran out of grass to burn. This was the third and largest grass fire of the day for Carthage Fire. And to be the first to see breaking news, weather, and sports, you can download the KOAM News app. It's available free of charge in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. Just search for the KOAM News app. Well, a mistake on some southeast Kansas ballots means some early voters might not be finished voting. Voters in Neosho County, Kansas are voting for judges this election season after early ballots left them off. According to the Neosho County Clerk's Office, drafted ballots did include judges, but when they went to print, the backside was not included. Now, the mistake wasn't noticed until the second day of early voting. The county clerk's office created an amendum ballot until corrected ballots could arrive. And for those voters who cast their ballots before the mistake was realized, they will still have the opportunity to vote for the judicial positions.
The addenda ballots only contain those judges' races, none of the other races that had already been given out previously to early-in voters or the advanced day voters. And the addendum ballots were then provided in addition to anyone who continued to come in into early voting.
Now, the Neosho County Clerk's Office has now received corrected ballots that will be used from now on for both early voting and the general election day on November 5th. And early voting begins this week in Oklahoma. In-person absentee voting kicks off Wednesday at 8 a.m. and runs through this Friday, November 1st, for the November 5th general election. No excuse is needed to vote early, but voters must provide proof of identity when checking in at their early voting site. You can head over to KOAMnewsnow.com/elections for a full list of polling places and voting sites in your area. Well, as Election Day nears, officials in Joplin County, Missouri want to remind voters this state has electioneering laws. Now, these laws include a no electioneering zone within 25 feet of a polling site. Now, this means a ban on clothing, buttons, or signs that promote a political candidate or stance within that area. Now, voters found in violation, such as wearing a shirt that breaks electioneering laws, will be asked by poll workers to change or to turn their shirt inside out.
What we will do is we will ask them if they're wearing a hat or button. Sir, you know, the law says that you cannot electioneer. Most everybody does this. Oh, I'm sorry, I totally forgot. So most people are kind like that. Every once in a while you get somebody who's a little bit belligerent saying, it's my First Amendment right and I don't have to do what you say. Well, the law says no electioneering, so they cannot wear that at the polls.
The objective behind these regulations is to ensure a hassle-free voting environment. And that's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes coming up on the KOAM Morning News. Well, Jasper High School volleyball aims for a spot in the district championship game. We'll have those details. Plus, a new report says carbon dioxide concentrations in the atmosphere have hit a new high. And we have a warm and windy day today. We'll have what to expect with Chris Warner in the Skywatch Weather Center. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back.
Pitt State football is coming off one of its biggest wins of the season. Last Saturday, the Gorillas went on the road to beat the only remaining undefeated team in the MIAA. Make it 5 straight wins for the Gorillas after a 35-21 win over Central Oklahoma. Pitt State is now in first place in the MIAA conference. The Gorilla defense held UCO scoreless in the fourth quarter. Head coach Tom Anthony spoke about what it takes for this program to win big games against nationally ranked opponents.
Just the work these guys have put in, our leadership that's been here for multiple years now, that have played in a lot of these big games. I mean, they know what it takes. They know the preparation that it entails. They know the execution that it entails if you want to win these games. So just incredible. And again, I'm sure I'll process it a little more on the bus ride home.
Practicing with these guys every day, you know, I think we got the best defense in the country, and it was good to see those guys make plays, you know, see everybody make plays, the defense play together and keep them from getting into the end zone. Somebody had to give them a loss, and I'm glad it's us. I'm glad it's us.
Well, yesterday, the latest AFCA coaches poll was released. Pittsburgh State only jumps up one spot from a week ago. However, the Gorillas are back in the top 5. Valdosta State takes the top spot, ranked number 1. Fair State is ranked number 2. But remember, Pitt State beat Fair State all the way back in August. The Gorillas are ranked number 5. Pitt State will host Central Missouri at home this Saturday with kickoff scheduled at 2 p.m. We've reached postseason high school volleyball in the state of Missouri. Last night, a handful of matchups. A few of our local teams aim for a spot in the District 11 championship game at the Class 1 level. Northeast Vernon County on the road last night. They faced one of the best teams in the state, the Jasper Eagles. So the first set here, Crystal Smith sets up Olivia Roberts. She gets the kill. Jasper has an early lead. Later in the set, Anna Garcia keeps this between the lines. That's a point for the Knights. Then next serve here, Mackenzie Lee spikes this as she finds the open floor. But Jasper starts to settle in. Eagles go on a run. Crystal Smith gets the kill, and Jasper wins the first set 25-9. So we go to the third set, and there's Smith again. The ball hits the top of the net, but has enough velocity on it for the kill. Then we go to match point. Aspen Lehman comes from the corner and finishes off the game with some authority. Jasper advances to the district title game. Lady Eagles win it 3-0. Over to our second game of the night. The Liberal Lady Bulldogs face the Rich Hill Lady Tigers. Both teams meet for the second time this season. In the first set, Cale Hatfield puts some heat on it, and no one will be able to dig that one. Later in the first, similar play here, but this time it's Allie Barton who gets the kill. Liberal wins the first set 25-18. In the second set, check out this dig by Braylon Frieden. Taylor Swartis does the rest to get it over the net. Then we go to match point. Allie Barton ends this one with some authority. Liberal takes care of business. Lady Bulldogs win 3-0. They will face Jasper tomorrow night in the District 11 championship game. Last but not least, the El Dorado Springs Bulldogs were in the Class 2 District 12 championship game last night. Bulldogs fight hard but ultimately fall short 3-1. Fairgrove advances to sectionals. They will face the Diamond Wildcats this Thursday. And it's time for our Performance of the Week. We wrapped up the regular season for high school football in Missouri on Friday night, and this was easily the game of the year in the COC Conference. This week, our Performance of the Week winner is the Joplin Eagles. Joplin goes on the road to defeat Webb City 43-42 in overtime. The Eagles went for a 2-point conversion, and John Jasper made the game-winning catch in the end zone for the win. To vote on next week's Performance of the Week, all you have to do is head over to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Well, still to come, the American Stroke Association has published updated guidelines to help reduce the risk of a first-time stroke. And another windy day today, and we are tracking strong, potentially severe thunderstorms tomorrow. The latest when we come back. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. It's about to be 5:18 on this Wednesday. That tornado spun me around too much. It is 5:18 on this Tuesday morning. Okay, we're there now. All right, let's move on. We have wind advisories. Now, as we've talked about, we have 5 different weather forecast offices that cover our area. Sometimes they agree, sometimes they don't. This is when they don't. Bourbon, Crawford, Cherokee counties in Kansas, southwest Missouri, and northeast Oklahoma. Wind advisories will go into effect and run through 8 this evening. Now, Wichita has taken the rest of southeast Kansas and extended those wind advisories through 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. And honestly, with good cause, because as we're seeing now, we saw last night, the wind's not easing up overnight. We're in that point where those wind gusts today are going to be in that 40, possibly even upward of 50-mile-an-hour range for everybody. That's why those wind advisories have been expanded. That's why they're taking up more space across the map, because it is going to be breezy. I mean, look at these gusts even as we head into tomorrow morning. Still, many of us, 40 to 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts as we kick off our Wednesday. So here's the thing. We have that cold front coming in Wednesday as well. And that's going to bring us that chance for thunderstorms. Unfortunately, it's also bringing us a chance of severe weather, which we'll talk about. But once it passes through, you can see the wind arrows shift. And by 5 a.m. Thursday, the winds will begin to ease up across the area. Future track today, again, still trying to pick up on a sprinkle or two out there. But again, any rain chances today are less than 10%. We're going to have a very similar day to yesterday. We're going to be warm, we're going to be breezy, and we're going to be a mix of partly to mostly cloudy skies. Overnight, clouds increase and will be mostly cloudy through just about all of our Wednesday. There might be an isolated shower or two ahead of the front, and then maybe even an isolated storm or two ahead of the front. And then when the front itself gets in here, it'll be about 6-7 o'clock that it starts rolling into our northwestern counties. So by 8, Fort Scott, Chanute, Fredonia, just to the northwest of Bartlesville. And at this point, it has now passed through Yates Center by 8 o'clock. And it will slowly make its way across the area, heading off to the east-southeast. By 10, Nevada, Fort Scott, Pittsburgh, Galena, Baxter Springs, Miami, Veneta. And take a look. It's hard to see because of the temperature marks, but you see this little bowing feature out here on the leading edge of that as it then races off by midnight, all in our eastern counties. And after that, it is out of here by sunrise Thursday. That's where, again, like that bowing feature we were seeing on Future Track. It's not saying it's going to be in that spot at that exact time, but that's where our concerns come from for severe weather. Behind the front, temperatures are going to be considerably cooler. It's going to feel downright cold, but it will be seasonably cool as we head into Thursday. Check this out, upper 40s and low 50s by noon on Thursday. We're also, again, this will continue to get updated, but we're looking at roughly 1 to 2 inches of rain across the majority of the area. So again, won't erase the drought, but it will certainly help out. But we still have to contend with the severe threats, still have an elevated risk across the entire area as we head into Wednesday. And again, all hazards are possible. So this means there is an isolated tornado risk out there. But the greatest threat, the greatest concern is with very large hail and those damaging winds of 70 miles an hour or higher. So not only will it be windy ahead of it, so we'll have non-thunderstorm wind gusts. Then we'll have the storms themselves to contend with, which could again bring 70-mile-an-hour winds. So a lot to keep an eye on tomorrow evening. 73 in Joplin right now. Yeah, 73. Winds out of the south gusting to 36 right now. And it's breezy across the whole region, and it is very, very warm. We should be in the upper 40s. We're almost 25, almost 30 degrees warmer than where we should be for this time of year. Majority of us low to mid 70s. We're going to start in the upper 60s. It'll be windy. Clouds will increase through the morning. It'll be about the mid 70s by 11 a.m. We're looking at highs today, low 80s out there, low to mid 80s, so a little cooler than yesterday, but we did break records yesterday. Many locations broke record highs. Joplin broke one that was set back in 1950. We'll have the thunderstorms Wednesday, 80. 63 for Halloween. It's going to be chilly. Just make sure you're prepared for that. And as we head into the weekend and next week, more shower and thunderstorm chances, which is great news because we're finally going to start catching up on some of that rain out there. Let's check your forecast. We'll be back with more right after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning. Well, according to the CDC, more than 600,000 people in the U.S. will have a stroke for the first time this year. But there are now new guidelines to help lower a person's risk of becoming a statistic. Now, this marks the first time in 10 years that the American Stroke Association has updated its guidelines for stroke prevention. They include regular exercise and following a healthy diet, specifically a Mediterranean diet. Now, for the first time, the guidelines state that popular weight loss and diabetes drugs can decrease the risk of stroke in people with diabetes and a high risk of heart disease. Women are also being urged to monitor their blood pressure if they are pregnant or taking birth control. Now, the guidelines also note those using hormones for gender-affirming care may be at a higher risk of stroke and should be monitored. Well, pulmonary infections happen when a virus, bacteria, or fungus invades the lungs, causing inflammation. And the CDC says these illnesses and respiratory viruses are making more children sick this fall. Andy Gaither has a look at the latest data and how to help slow the spread.
In parts of the U.S., RSV is on the rise, especially in young children. Cases of pertussis are 5 times higher than they were at this time last year, and now an alert from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention about a surge in cases of walking pneumonia, particularly among preschool-aged children.
This wave began a little earlier and is much, much higher than what we expect from previous years.
Dr. Frank Esper with Cleveland Clinic Children says symptoms of this milder lung infection can last for weeks and may include a cough, low fever, and muscle aches.
It's typically caused by several different types of bacteria, but the most common one is called mycoplasma. And this is an old friend with pediatricians and adult physicians alike.
Esper says penicillin and amoxicillin, the antibiotics typically used to treat pneumonia, don't seem to work with walking pneumonia, so a different antibiotic regimen may be needed instead.
That antibiotic most commonly is azithromycin, also known as a Z-Pak by many people out in the community. And that actually does treat walking pneumonia very well.
Esper says those who are sick can help slow the spread of any illness by covering coughs and sneezes, by washing hands, and by staying home if you're sick.
Chicken soup yourself back up to good health and then go out afterwards.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Now, Dr. Esper says there are diagnostic tests to determine whether a patient has walking pneumonia, but he says they're expensive and the patient typically has to foot the bill. And that's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
And we've already got a windy start to the day, another breezy and warm one out there. Another look at your forecast when we come back.
Right now at 5:30, Outreach Therapy in Joplin invites families out to see the new pediatric clinic.
And it's breezy out there, not necessarily this windy, but it will be very gusty. We'll have a look at that forecast, get you out the door coming up.
Plus, an update on the Miami Senior Center after the city took control of the facility and its finances.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Well, good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:30. I'm Elise Snowy.
And I'm Chris Warner. So we are dressed this way because if you're just joining us, I am actually not going to be here for Halloween, but we had a poll and you all voted that she should be Dorothy.
And you should be the
tornado.
tornado.
I should be a tornado. Tornado's a little harder to pull off, but
there you go.
Elise and our digital producer Peyton, they put this together. Fabric softener sheets and spray paint, right?
Yeah, fabric softener sheets. I mean, Chris
it smells great.
Better than he ever has.
Usually I come in here smelling like a dumpster. Now I look like one, but I don't smell like one today.
There you go. A little opposite day ahead of Halloween.
Yeah, something like that. So an early happy Halloween to all of you. And of course, our Halloween day looking great, but we've still got some weather to get through between here and there, and that's what we're going to start with. Is first though this look outside from our camera in downtown Pittsburgh. Now yesterday at about noon, boy, this thing was rocking and a rolling in the wind. It is still gusty out there, and the winds will increase once again today. Our camera 7th and I've got to face this way. Our camera 7th and range line looking great as well. We also have mostly clear skies, just a couple of clouds here and there, but clouds will increase through the morning as well. MoDOT camera 20th and range line looks good so far, and same from the KDOT camera at 69 East 520th Avenue, of course, just south of Pittsburgh. We have wind advisories, and as we've discussed, there are 5 different forecast offices, National Weather Service offices, that cover our viewing area. Most of the time they agree. Sometimes they don't. This time they don't. Bourbon, Crawford, Cherokee counties in Kansas, southwest Missouri, and northeastern Oklahoma. Wind advisories through 8 this evening. Wichita has put the rest of southeast Kansas under this wind advisory through 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, and honestly, with good reason. These gusty winds, they didn't let up last night. They're not going to let up tonight either. Future Track still showing an opportunity for an isolated sprinkle or two, but again, the majority of us, if not all of us, will ultimately be dry today. And like yesterday, very windy. Those gusts pushing 40, maybe even as high as 50 miles an hour in some cases. Temperatures warm, a wee bit cooler than yesterday. We're not looking to break any records today, but many locations broke record highs yesterday. And skies will be in similar form as well, as we will be partly to mostly cloudy through the day. 73 in Joplin right now, 71 in Pittsburgh, and temperatures around the region. We are sitting into the, well, most of us, low to mid 70s. The cool spot right now is Bentonville, sitting at 69. Kids getting on the bus. We are looking at temperatures upper 60s out there. South winds 20 to 25, gusts 30 to 40 here and there. And then as we head into the afternoon, partly to mostly cloudy skies, and those gusts again 40 to 50 miles an hour. Temperatures right around 80 degrees. So still well above normal, but not quite to record levels, it doesn't look like today, as we're looking low to mid 80s, breezy, partly to mostly cloudy. We do have showers and storms rolling in tomorrow with a cold front. It is going to drop our temperatures, and unfortunately it's going to bring us the threat of severe weather. We're going to talk about that in detail here in just a few more minutes. Elise?
All right, thanks, Chris. Well, the city of Miami, which recently took over the reins of the Miami Senior Center, is making efforts to improve the facility. Now, the city received a $75,000 grant to improve the building and the layout of the center, including adding more kitchen space. The Miami City Attorney says there's been an uptick in interest and signups at the senior center. Well, the Baxter Springs Police Department hosted a DARE graduation ceremony for 3 fifth grade classes yesterday. And that ceremony took place at the Central Elementary School. DARE, which stands for Drug Abuse Resistance Education, is a 10-week program intended to give students the skills to help resist peer pressure to experiment with drugs and alcohol.
The program's not perfect. There's been times where I've had to arrest former DARE students because of choices they made. So the program's not perfect, but the way I look at it is the value and the price that you can put on one kid, on one child and their life. And so if we can reach just one child through this program, it's worth every penny that we would spend on it.
Noah Berry. The program also allows a DARE certified officer to spend time in the classroom during the program. The Joplin School District is now accepting enrollment applications for 3 neighborhood-based preschool classrooms for 4-year-olds. The program is called Little Eagles Flight School. Students in Irving, Royal Heights, and Soaring Heights attendance zones will pilot the program. The goal is to help kids gain the skills necessary for kindergarten.
We had lots of kids come in and they weren't ready. They weren't socially ready. They weren't ready to take turns talking and getting along with their friends. So that is my goal for these guys. They can take turns talking, they can get along, they can problem solve.
Transportation services and breakfast and lunch options will also be provided. Well, Outreach Therapy in Joplin hosted a trick-or-treat event for kiddos yesterday. The new outpatient pediatric therapy clinic opens for business this Friday. The clinic focuses on occupational, speech, and physical therapy needs for youth ages 3 to 17.
They can get it in First Steps, which is a wonderful program from 0 to 3 in the home, but once they turn 3, they can't get it. They can get it at the schools, but there's no outpatient facility that has a lot of room for them. So this is all pediatrics. There's swings, balls, rock walls, all kinds of things. You know, we will serve kids with all types of disabilities.
McCullough worked in therapy for 30 years before opening her own clinic. And that's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. UN officials are now calling for more attention to Sudan's forgotten war as the country is on the brink of famine. Plus, Egypt is proposing a 2-day ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. We'll have the latest. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. Topping World Watch, carbon dioxide concentrations in the atmosphere have hit a new high. A new UN weather report says carbon dioxide concentrations have risen by 11.4% in just 20 years. Now, concentrations measured 420 parts per million last year, up 2.3 parts per million from a year earlier. The report warned there are signs that rising temperatures are driving dangerous, quote, feedbacks that will increase greenhouse gas concentrations. CO2 concentrations are now 51% higher than pre-industrial levels. Climate scientists warn that the burning of fossil fuels, coal, oil, and gas is a main factor in climate change. The United Nations is demanding more international attention for what it calls the forgotten crisis in Sudan. Now, over a year and a half of war in the African nation has pushed the country to the brink of famine. The UN says more than half of Sudan's population, about 25.6 million people, may face acute hunger this year. Additionally, the country is in the midst of several disease outbreaks. Now, the most recent appeal from the director of the children's agency, UNICEF, comes amid recent reports the paramilitary group Rapid Support Forces rampaged through villages and towns in an east central province, killing dozens. Now, fighting between the Rapid Support Forces and the Sudanese military have forced millions to flee their homes. Well, Egypt is proposing a 2-day ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. The plan would include the return of 4 hostages, the release of some Palestinian prisoners, and additional humanitarian aid to Gaza. Meanwhile, the Israelis are talking about their retaliatory attacks against Iran. Greg Palkot has the latest from Haifa, Israel.
The fighting continues here on several fronts. The Lebanon port city of Tyre blasted by Israel going after Hezbollah. As tough fighting continues in southern Lebanon, 5 more Israeli soldiers killed. In northern Gaza, the IDF says it's completed raids on a main hospital, claiming to capture 100 Hamas suspects there, as 100,000 civilians are said to be still trapped in that part of Gaza. Reportedly, positive talks about the release of hostages still held by Hamas and a ceasefire just wrapped up, involving CIA Chief Burns, Israeli intelligence boss Barnea, and Qatari Prime Minister Al-Thani, including a new plan to release some hostages and Palestinian prisoners amid a brief fighting pause, as the aftershocks from the attack by Israel on Iran are still being felt. That was in response to that Iranian missile barrage. Analysts say not only missile production sites were hit, but many air defense facilities, easing possible future attacks. While downplaying the Israeli strikes, there was tough talk coming today from Tehran.
We are decisive and serious in our response as necessary when decisions are made by officials and armed forces.
The Israeli Prime Minister was defiant as well.
We dealt them a real blow. I thank our allies, in particular the United States, for their continued cooperation.
And Washington sounding pleased its warnings to Israel against attacking nuclear and energy sites were heeded.
We do think it was a proportionate response that should not lead to further escalation by Iran.
Finally, another possible bad turn for the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. The Israeli parliament voting tonight to ban the UN agency helping Palestinians there to operate in Israel. Israel claims UN staffers were involved in terror activities. The UN says this move could mean the collapse of the aid process.
And that's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. 5:45 now on this Tuesday morning. We're going to start with the wind advisory. So again, Crawford, Bourbon, Cherokee counties in Kansas, southwest Missouri, and then northeast Oklahoma. They all run through 8 this evening. And then the remainder of southeast Kansas, these wind advisories will run through 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. And that's because it's going to be windy. It's like it was yesterday. It was windy during the day. It's still windy. It was windy overnight. It's going to be windy today, overnight tonight, and tomorrow as well. The difference is today those wind gusts are expected to increase a bit across a broader portion of our region, and those gusts could reach 40, potentially 50 miles an hour in some cases as we head through the afternoon and evening hours out there. So do keep that in mind. Again, please no outdoor burning. I don't know, I didn't count how many grass fire stories we ran this morning. But that's exactly why you can't be doing this. Unless you are a professional, don't be doing any outdoor burning. Don't be discarding any flammable materials either, because as we've said, those fires will spread very quickly under these conditions. Now, these winds will continue overnight tonight and into our Wednesday ahead of a cold front. And once that cold front pushes through and brings us those showers and storms, the winds on the backside will begin to ease up as we head into our Thursday. Future track today, again, it is picking up on maybe a sprinkle or two, but again, rain chances for today are less than 10%. Well, our day today is going to be very similar to yesterday, just a few degrees cooler as we're looking at partly to mostly cloudy skies. Winds out of the south gusting 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. And temperatures today, again, a little cooler than where they were yesterday. Not most, but many locations yesterday managed to break records for record highs yesterday. Joplin broke a record that was set back in 1950. Now we head into Wednesday. We could have a stray shower or storm ahead of the main front. Now, later in the evening, if we do get a thunderstorm going, that storm could potentially become severe on its own. But the main complex of storms, it's going to bring us the greater severe threat, will start rolling in later in the evening. So after about 5, 6 o'clock, that cold front rolls through. By 6, it's probably pushing through Yates Center. By 7, 8, it is now from just outside of Fort Scott, Chanute, down to Fredonia, northwest of Bartlesville. And this will continue. And look at the wind arrows ahead of it. Those gusts are really going to be picking up. So that's the thing we're going to have to contend with. We're looking at severe wind gusts possible with these storms, but we're also looking at non-thunderstorm wind gusts that'll be pushing that 40 to 50 mile an hour range again ahead of that complex. By 10, Fort Scott, Nevada, Pittsburgh, Galena, Riverton, Miami, Veneta, just exiting Parsons and Coffeyville. That's where this line will be, and knocking on the door of Joplin, Lamar, Stockton, as it continues to push off to the east. By midnight, it starts to pick up some steam, so now the thunderstorm activity confined to the Missouri side and parts of Delaware County and northwest Arkansas, and so it's into Cassville, Monette, Bentonville, Anderson by midnight, and then it'll clear on out of here, and by sunrise Thursday, it's going to be chilly, and like I said, it's going to feel downright cold compared to where we've been, but it will be seasonably cold as we head through our Thursday. By noon, only into the upper 40s and low 50s for many of us, and we will, of course, warm a little bit more for Halloween, but not by much. Still looking to get maybe 1-2 inches of rainfall out there, which is fantastic news. That's the only good news out of this, because again, we have to contend with that severe threat and that elevated risk still in place across the entire region. It's 3 days running now that this has been unchanged. We do have that threat for an isolated tornado, greater concerns with very large hail, and damaging straight line winds of 70 miles an hour or greater. So a lot to keep in mind as we head into tomorrow. Make sure you stay with KOAM, KOAM Plus. The YouTube channel will be across the board with anything that comes in. 73 in Joplin right now. The winds gusting to 36. And around the area, those temperatures, again, well above normal. Should be in the upper 40s. We got upper 60s, low 70s as we get this day started. Looking on average, upper 60s to start. Mostly clear skies. Clouds increase through the morning. Mid 70s by 11. Again, ahead of highs. Low to mid 80s today, so a little cooler. 80 tomorrow, and then we'll have the storm. 63 for Halloween. And take a look at those temperatures, very fall-like. It's going to feel pretty decent out there. It's going to feel like October, and then we have additional much-needed rain chances as we head through the weekend and next week. And that's checking your forecast. We're back with more right after this.
Well, modern DNA technology has shed new light on an unsettling decades-old discovery in the walls of an old home. And what was revealed goes back more than 150 years. Jeremy Roth has today's Take a Look at This.
A nearly 50-year-old mystery involving a ghastly, ghostly discovery in the walls of an Illinois home finally has some chilling answers, and just in time for Halloween. In 1978, the owner of this 1800s-era Batavia home found a human skull inside one of their walls. But an ensuing investigation failed to identify the remains, and the case went cold for decades, until now. Investigators using modern forensic technology recently revealed the skull belonged to one Esther Granger, who apparently died right after childbirth at the age of 17 in the late 1860s. The confirming DNA sample was matched to Granger's great-great-grandson.
There is this sense of closure. I wish my mom was still here so that I could tell her this story.
What still remains a mystery is how the skull of Granger, who died in Indiana, ended up in an Illinois home's wall. Officials don't have answers, but have at least one eerie theory involving grave robbing. And from a real-life house of horrors to a fictional one that is available for a visit. Beetlejuice fans, and also more recent Beetlejuice fans, can now lay their weary, eerie heads to rest, albeit briefly, in a real-life replica of the home that was haunted haughtily by the trashy/terrifying titular character in both fan-favorite films. Airbnb is offering 10 free 3-hour bookings for up to 6 guests each in this impeccable recreation of the iconic Dietz residence in New Jersey that features its famous weird and wild styling, right down to the tiny town in the attic where you-know-who is known to reside. It's a perfect property where the obsessed and the possessed can find rest. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
Stick around, we'll be right back. Well, for water fun lovers in Belgium, Halloween is hollowing in a great pumpkin boat race. About 300 pumpkin lovers hollowed out huge pumpkins, some as much as 880 pounds, and turned them into round kayaks. Now, for a few rounds of racing in a traditional annual event in Casterly, Belgium on Sunday. Now, teams of 4 paddle each for a lap and then hand off the paddle to the next teammate. The pumpkin racing began in 2008 when the Pumpkin Society folks tried to figure out what to do with leftover large pumpkins. Racers say since the pumpkin kayaks are round, you need a lot of muscle to paddle them through the water. The hollowed seeds are kept for next year's pumpkins. Well, Halloween is just a few days away, and it's not just people getting into the spirit of the holiday. Grizzly bears are having some fun too. A group of grizzlies at the Memphis Zoo in Tennessee feast on pumpkins painted to look like basketballs, a nod to Memphis's NBA team, the Grizzlies. Memphis Zoo is home to 3 grizzly bears.
Looks like they were having a lot of fun out there. If you enjoy rolling around in the wind, it's going to be another breezy one out there. Gusts today in that 40, potentially 50 mile an hour range. We're going to start the day mostly clear, clouds increasing through the morning, and like yesterday, will be partly to mostly cloudy. Upper 60s to start, mid 70s by 11. Highs today, not looking to break records like we did yesterday, but still well above normal as we hang out in the low 80s across the region, maybe some mid 80s here and there. Into this evening, it is still partly to mostly cloudy. It is still windy. It'll become mostly cloudy overnight tonight. We'll fall back upper 60s, low 70s. The winds continue into our Wednesday, still 40, 50 miles an hour out of the south. About 5, 6 o'clock, a cold front starts rolling into our area, will bring us thunderstorm chances, some of which could be strong to severe. So you want to keep it right here to KOAM and keep you updated on that as those storms roll through tomorrow evening. And after that, Halloween looks great. It's going to be cold, but seasonably cold, low 60s, more rain chances through the weekend and next week. That's checking your forecast. We're back with more right after this.